Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Move Africa podcast, which we are calling The Dream of a Free Movement. And my name is Wanjiru Nguhi. Welcome very much to the podcast. Today, I am joined by Dr. Oluwafemi, who is currently consulting as an expert for the African Union on Free Movement and Mobility. And he previously has served as an embedded expert at the African Union, focusing on continental mobility and free movement. Before we started, I know I had asked a question on why is traveling within the continent a difficult thing? Why can't I just get on my bike or boda boda and just drive through the continent? And you had talked a little bit about that. Maybe we could start there on just as a very brief introduction on why that is difficult, and also why free movement has been identified as a key pillar in Agenda 2063.
Thank you so much. Yes. As you are maybe aware, that the continent is one key pillar that Africa integration relies on. We have discussed some of the challenges that the continent is facing: issue of security, issue of job creation, issue of insurance, and most importantly, registration. Most African countries don't really have a good register to ensure that all citizens are captured. So I believe this is one of the issues that the protocol is facing at the moment, and the support that the protocol has received on the continent is very slow.
Yes. All right. So maybe we can start by understanding what this protocol is and what the Agenda 2063 is, just in case there's someone who's wondering what are these things we're talking about, and also what does the African Union envision when it's working on these things?
Yes, the protocol on free movement is a kind of policy document of Agenda 2063 that looked at liberalization of movement on the continent. And it has three rights. The first right is right of entry, and the second right is the right of residence, and the third right is the right of establishment. This gives opportunity to African citizens to be able to move on their continent. As you may be aware, that mobility is a right. To move, freedom to move to anywhere, to reside anywhere, all over the world. But specifically, this protocol is meant for African citizenry.
You know, I like when you said that mobility is a right and that movement is a right. And I also love, as someone who likes to travel, I like when you said that the right of free entry, like just let me enter your country. Don't, let's. All right. So the other thing I would like to know from you is that we've had the Move Africa project, for about the entire of this year. And my question to you is, what role does Move Africa play in advancing mobility across the continent?
Yes, in 2018, there was a study conducted by the African Union and IOM, International Organization for Migration, on the challenges and benefits of this protocol. Yeah. And actually, the benefits outweighed the challenges. Yeah. I think coming to Move Africa, most Africa, in the study, it stipulated that 70% movement actually happened within the continent. So there's a lot of movement around the continent, as like what the Western media will tell you, that people are moving towards Europe and Middle East. I think meaning that 70% of our population are young people. They are on social media. Move Africa will be able to actually address this issue of people knowing the importance of the protocol to them as an individual and as a citizen of the continent. So I really applaud this initiative that Move Africa will be able to take out this message across the continent, and everybody will get to hear via various social media platforms.
Yes. And it was actually very interesting. Even us, when we were doing the data storytelling, it was interesting to note that there were so many people moving for business, moving for sports, moving for entertainment. Even in times of war, people are really moving within the continent, even more than we are moving outside of the continent. And that was something even I had not really thought about, obviously because we did not have the data, but I had not even thought about what does movement look like in Africa, because a lot of even the visa processes out of the continent. It almost looks like we are only moving to outside of the continent, but not really within the continent. So it was such a fantastic thing, even for someone like me, to be able to see that. Okay, so now that we have established that Africans are moving a lot within the continent, and of course there's a vision from the AU to have free movement within the continent. Many Africans are still facing high travel costs, visa restrictions, border delays. Sometimes it's actually easier to go to Europe than to travel within within Africa. So why has the implementation of these protocols and this agenda been slow? Like, what is really going on at the borders and at the visas and all of these things that are making it difficult for Africans to travel within their own continent?
Thanks so much. If we are talking about this protocol, don't forget two other protocols and agreements.
Yes.
The CFTA agreement and then the SATEM agreement. The SATEM is Single African Aviation Market. It's also one of the flagship projects of the African Union, that these three protocols agreement, they work together, they are connected. Talking about the challenges that the protocol has faced, I think SATEM is coming from the angle of making sure that air travel on the continent is very low. They are working with airlines. I was in a fora in Zimbabwe last August with the government of Zimbabwe, Zambia and Zimbabwe, to work with them and South Africa to see how they can bring the high cost of air travel down on the continent. And there's a lot of work going on, and we have seen an increment of this. And also, when you look at the Africa Visa Index openness, the AU is working with AFDB every year to produce this particular index. And one of the things we are doing is to do a scorecard. The report is a scorecard. I was very happy when Kenya saw the report. They were not happy because the way they ran Kenya. And they quickly organized a meeting with the African Union and AFDB to address this issue of ETA. And after the meeting, Kenya was able to remove the ETA placed on travel. So you can see an increment. So it's steady, slow, but it's working.
Yeah. So in short, like what I've had, sometimes it's good to shame the governments into some sort of action, because we see that worked with the Kenyan government. Although I wouldn't use the word shame, just highlighting like some of the bottlenecks. Yes. All right. Yes, and it's interesting because it was fantastic to see the ETA being, because that was also even more complicated than the visa. Than the visa travels. The thing that I would want to ask is, how does the EU respond to concerns about security, migration, and sovereignty? I know we had mentioned this when we were beginning, and you had talked about the sovereignty of states. I think I also mentioned something about the colonial hangover, where states are still, we're still demarcated according to colonial boundaries, and that could have a problem when it comes to mobility within the continent. So how does EU respond to those concerns? You said security, migration, sovereignty. You even mentioned insurance. So how does the EU come in, and what does it do, and what has it done so far?
Yes, when you look at Agenda 23 as a policy document, it encompasses all these issues. One of the things we have done is to work with a committee. We continue to work with a committee of, we call them CISA, Committee of Intelligence and Security Services in Africa. These are committees of chief intelligence of each member state. And I was shocked to hear from them. I was so happy as well to tell the whole world that free movement is not even connected with security, because people kept on moving. Whether you plug your border, whether you put some policies, regulations, people will keep on moving. And they really support this. And what the AU is doing is to make sure that they work closely with member states to unpack any myths around this protocol. In July, we were with government of Ghana to unpack this protocol. And after the engagement, the government called for national consultation to ratify the protocol. These are what we are talking about. We continue to discuss until we get a better result.
Yes. No, I like that. I like the place of dialogue, even when it comes to security, and you talking about unpacking the myths. only because I also do a lot of mis and disinformation work and information integrity work, where a lot of the things that should be happening on the continent don't happen because of some form of mis or disinformation. Although there are some real security challenges, but that is usually addressed even, like through the peacekeeping process, if I'm not right. If I'm not wrong, although that is not, that is a completely different conversation. You've mentioned that there have been notable successes. Can you share an example maybe where it has directly influenced mobility, where the Agenda 2063 has directly influenced mobility or opened opportunities for citizens? I know you talked about Kenya with the scraping off of the ETA, but are there other examples where it has worked very well, and were it not for this agenda, then we would not be even speaking about free movement?
Exactly. In fact, there's numerous success stories across the continent.
Yes.
Another success story is Ghana. Ghana, now they are removing visa on arrival for all Africans. They are working around to remove all the obstacles. And then we organized last year a study tour to Rwanda with about 10 member states to see what Rwanda has really put in place to facilitate movement of people. And as a result of that, African Union is receiving requests from member states to do more study tour, to see facilities, systems, to see infrastructures that other member states have put in place. And it's working. And then the latest one is Burkina Faso. You can imagine, just last 2 weeks, Burkina Faso have announced visa on arrival for all African passport holders. These are the things we are talking about. And when we were in Ghana in July, the chief immigration officer of Rwanda requests that AU organize a bilateral between Ghana and Rwanda. And we were able to do it, and they had a fruitful meeting, and we are waiting for the results. And you can see also Ghana, South Africa, Kenya, South Africa is as a result of this protocol.
Yes.
It has never happened in the last 20 years. There's a lot of things going on behind the scene. I think we need the social media to appreciate what the AU is doing with member states.
Yes. No. I love that. So you can go to Kenya. So if you're an African passport holder, you can go to Kenya. It's visa free. You can go to Ghana. It's visa free, and you can go to Burkina Faso. South Africa, not yet, because I know we used to always have to have visas for you to travel to South Africa. But between Kenya and South Africa, there is no visa.
But for Kenyans.
Yes, only for
Kenyans. Now bilateral, yes.
Yes.
It's bilateral now.
It's bilateral now. Please, South Africa, open your borders. We want to come. Anyway.
Of course.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Another thing is that we have done a lot of data storytelling work, and we've had a data storytelling course. What kinds of stories or evidence would make the strongest case for governments to prioritize this agenda? I know we are here begging, countries to open up their borders, but what sort of stories do governments need to hear so that even as we do more of these programs and more of these projects, what do governments need to hear? What would storytelling and advocacy look like? What do they need to hear for it to be, for them to be convinced? They usually talk about heart to mind. Mind to heart, sorry.
First societal approach.
Yes.
First of all, this protocol is for member states. It's not AU protocol. It was signed by 32 member states.
Yes.
And ratified by 4 member states. So meaning that in terms of political will, is there. If you can get 32 ratification within 6 months, that means this protocol is very important to all member states. And then 4 ratification. Yes, we are stuck at 4 ratification, but if you look at it, there's a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
Member states are actually implementing the text of the protocol,
yes,
which is one of the things that we also advocate for. I think media, conventional, unconventional media platform, civil society should go out there and ask their government, because we need young people to move across this continent. They are the strength of this continent. You can imagine 70% of our population are young people between 20 to 35. So we just need the government to understand that this protocol is a sign of strength rather than a weakness.
Yes. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's not even the convincing, it's just for them to just, speed it up on their end and to realize how critical it is. And I've read some of the stories, and they were very interesting stories where we have herders moving, from one part of the country to another part of another country. There are people moving for medical services, where we are also, we are exporting like doctors and nurses to like within the continent. People are moving for football. People are moving for travel, and I mean, it is really great if we can just open up the borders and see like how much, how much potential there is when we open up our borders, and for member states to have agreed and to sign. It would be very interesting. So my last question would be, I'm sorry. Yes.
The amount of money Rwanda has made when
Yes.
they opened up since 2018.
Yes.
Go and check. They have made more money from tourism, from travel.
Yes.
And you can imagine, they have even airline now working across the continent, moving across the continent. This is a big success story. And when you look at one of the fear that people will take over their territory, people will move in mass. Seychelles have been, they've opened up how many years? More than 15 years. Have you ever seen many Nigerians there? Have you seen many Ghanaians there? It's just on tourism. You enjoy your life, you spend your money, and you come back to your country and continue working.
Yes, absolutely. No, I agree with you. And also, I think it also has something to do with even the stability. I think some of these countries would be more stable if we had more people coming in and out of your country, since I think you do have to have some work done on your security. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So another thing that I'm curious about is how can citizens, especially young people, support the goals of this protocol, and how can they engage with it? Since we are the ones who are traveling, how do we support this? How do we help it win? And like, what do we need to do to also engage with it and to even push for more, for more implementation of this protocol?
Yeah, if you look at the ratification process, they differ from one country to another.
Yeah.
In some country, the president can make another a proclamation to say this protocol has gone into force. But in some other country, it has to go through national consultation. For example, in South Sudan, is currently with the Ministry of Justice. So it's moving from one place to another. So some will go to the parliament, then from parliament, it will go back to the president's office for signature, and then they will now come and deposit at the African Union. I think, and we have young people in all these sectors now. We can boldly organize ourselves, request for the government to take the right decision in a very organized manner. Young people can call for national dialogue on this protocol. Civil society can support this dialogue. They can make sure that they have people that are matter in the country. For example, we need entrepreneurs to support this protocol. People like Dangote, Mo Ibrahim, all these people should come up to support young people to organize national dialogue on this protocol. I can assure you, once we have this, you will see a lot of movement. And then social media will go boost, and then it will call the attention of the decision makers. And before you know it, we will get more ratification. And mind you, we need 11 more ratifications. Once we get 11 more, 15 in total, the protocol go into force directly.
Fantastic. Oh, that would be great if we just get 11 more countries to ratify. That would be really great.
Yes.
So the final question, I think I had asked it at the beginning, but we didn't. You didn't really get to it. What is your greatest hope, or what is your greatest your greatest imagination of what this protocol can do for the continent? Like the thing you sleep at night and it gives you a smile on your face with this protocol.
Yeah. Well, I've been in this field for over 10 years.
Yes.
I think my greatest desire that is this protocol should go into force as soon as possible. Like I used to say that most government officials, most diplomats are already facilitated.
Yes.
Some of us can wake up. We can wake up this morning, buy our ticket, and fly to any place around the world.
Yes.
But this protocol is meant for ordinary African citizens.
Yes.
So we need to work with boldness to ensure that this protocol go into force. And finally, from my side, CFTA is running very fast.
Okay.
Running at 350 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
But without people, CFTA, we get stuck at the point. When we are talking about certain,
Yeah.
people needs to fly.
Yes.
If there are no people, nobody will fly. If visa regime is not worked upon, is not reviewed by member states, then there will be problem in the future. So I want to
Yes.
encourage that our government should take a bold step by
Yes.
ratifying, sign, and domesticate this protocol.
Absolutely. Yes, and obviously, congratulations to Kenya, Ghana, Rwanda, and Burkina Faso for doing this. We're only looking at 11 more countries. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Oluwafemi. For me personally, my dream would be that someone in a village in I don't know, in Kiambu, where I come from, would just ride their bicycle to Egypt and come back.
Yes.
Of course, with the proper documentation, but you can just ride and come back and be able to say, I have traveled, a certain number of countries, which would be such a fantastic thing to experience in our own continent. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I am looking forward to seeing and to following up on how many countries, are going to be signing this protocol. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching us. Thank you for keeping it here. Join me in the next episode. Thank you and have a lovely day, evening, afternoon, night. Bye.